welcome everybody. We're here in Rochester and grateful to welcome everybody who's calling in from Facebook right now. I'm Haley. I am an Oakland County organizer for Elissa Slotkin for Congress. I was born and raised in Oakland County, and I'm proudly campaigning for Elissa because I know that when we bring people together, when we step up to get involved in our political process, we can improve people's lives. Elissa knows this too. That's why she's achieved bipartisan results, safeguarding healthcare for people with pre-existing conditions, protecting our Great Lakes, and most recently, ensuring that small businesses and their employees can weather the storm during this pandemic. Each of these actions have directly impacted my family, and I'm excited to re-elect a congressperson who puts service above partisanship to get things done for Michiganders. Just like Elissa's work in Congress, it's going to take many people banding together to get the job done in this election. We need volunteers now more than ever to reach voters in safe and creative ways. So let me tell you how we're going to get it done. First, we're doing online phone banking to reach voters from home to walk them through how they can vote by mail using absentee ballots. Volunteers can call folks from home while still getting to know other people in their community who are supporters of Elissa. Second, we're doing contactless canvassing. That means we're dropping off personalized postcards, literature, and yard signs to people's doorsteps without the risk of face-to-face contact. Lastly, we're relying on voters to connect us with their community organizations and with their personal networks that are already gathering online, so we can hop in, say hi, and widen the network of support for Elissa across the district. As you can see, the work is just beginning. We are training people, new volunteers every single day, and we'd love for you to join us. Most of you are already on Facebook, so this is super easy. Just open a second tab and go to elissaforcongress.com/volunteer. Again, that's elissaforcongress.com/volunteer. Every one of you watching from home has the power to shape this competitive race. Thank you so much to all of the people who have already volunteered, and we're excited to see so many new faces in the coming weeks. Thank you for joining, and now I'm excited to bring up Nancy Stroll, who is a big supporter in Oakland County.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Nancy Stroll. I live here in Oakland County in Springfield Township, which is west of here. Beautiful, beautiful place. Full disclosure, I'm not a Democrat. In fact, I've long considered myself a Republican, an old-fashioned, old-time Republican. And yes, our species still does exist, especially at the local level in North Oakland. In fact, for 20 years, I proudly served my community in local elective office as a Republican, as many other Republicans continue to do in townships up this way. So, why am I here? Well, beginning some years ago, I began to notice, could no longer ignore the sharp differences emerging between local governing at the township, village, and city levels up this way, where officials seem able to work together without getting caught up or even thinking about what I call party speak, as compared to what I saw happening at the federal level, particularly in Congress. That is a growing hyperpartisanship that was tying governing into knots. I had reached a point in my life where I realized I could not let a party label be the primary determinant of who I should vote for or support in Congress. It was long past time, I decided, for me to judge each candidate not by an R or a D, but by who they were and what they stood for. Simply put, it was time for me to put the best interests of my country over party in selecting who I voted for. And that's what led me to Elissa. By 2017, I had already become pretty exasperated with Congress, its hyperpartisanship, and more particularly, the non-responsiveness of my then representative, who I tried contacting multiple times to learn more about his positions and thoughts on a variety of issues: NATO and national security, healthcare, water quality, the environment, you name it. The response was zero. And forget the possibility of actual meetings. If there were any town halls, they must have been held in a closet using some secret code sent to the invites. Now fast forward to a short blurb I caught, I think it was in the Detroit News, about a person running for Congress in the 8th District who seemed to have remarkable national security credentials, someone who had spent an impeccable, nonpartisan career under and reporting to both a Republican and Democratic president. Bingo! That's what I thought. So I wrote a brief note addressed to the Holly P.O. box of the candidate, person named Elissa Slotkin, saying that I'd like to learn more about her and her positions. Now, I never did hear back from my then elected representative, but a few days after I sent that note to that Holly P.O. box, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Thinking it was just another robocall, I didn't answer it. But then I checked my email, my voicemail, and it was Elissa. So we met one morning a few days later at the Bittersweet Cafe in Holly. I came armed with about a half dozen policy questions and concerns I had scribbled on a small piece of paper. And over the course of an hour and several cups of coffee, Elissa addressed them all. No evasions, no waffling, no trying to surmise what she thought I might want to hear. I remember thinking, wow, this is refreshing. I also recall thinking, this is a woman and candidate of real substance and character, someone without a hint of the reflexive partisanship and party speak I had become so tired of witnessing in Congress. So when I came home, I pulled out a pad of paper and made 2 columns, one for Elissa, the other for my then representative, listing my pros and cons under each. After I finished, I looked at the list and I asked myself, suppose I had no idea what party was listed after their names. Who would I vote for? Who would I support? Once I did that, the answer was easy: Elissa Slotkin. And I'm not unique. Across North Oakland County, I've encountered many others like me, Republicans and independents, particularly a lot of women, who have gone through their same reassessment on how they should look at and select their representative in Congress, irrespective of whether they have an R or a D by their name. I know that because I met quite a few of them while knocking on doors in 2018, and they were choosing Elissa. How else to account for Elissa carrying Rochester or Rochester Hills, or doing better than hoped for in other North Oakland communities like mine? And I expect she'll do even better in 2020. One final thought I'd like to share about Elissa. While campaigning for her in 2018, I recall some naysayers telling me, she'll be like all the rest. Once elected, you won't see or hear from her again. I told them then that they were wrong, and boy, was I right. Since Elissa was first elected, I've lost count of the number of town halls she's held or varied groups she's met with, both in person and now virtually. And through them all, I've noticed one consistent pattern. No matter the location or the particular audience, Elissa listens and treats everyone with respect, even under the most trying circumstances. And I've witnessed the trying circumstances too. And when she speaks, sharing her knowledge, positions, and decisions, Elissa never waffles or evades, no matter the audience. Just like my one-on-one meeting with her, now several years ago at the Bittersweet Cafe. You see, Elissa respects all of us enough to assume, after hearing her out and judging her on the substance of her work and positions, will then make our own informed decisions on who we want to represent us in Congress, not based simply on whether a candidate has an R or a D after their name, but rather who they are and what they stand for. Which is why so many of us, R's, D's, and all those in between, support Elissa Slotkin. It is my great honor and pleasure to introduce a person of great courage and integrity, a person who puts our country over party, our Elissa.
Nancy's amazing. And that was wonderful, Nancy. Thank you. She's right. We did meet at a cafe. We did spend serious time together. Her enthusiasm and that of other Republican women across the district who really, I think, did a very brave thing in voting for us in 2018. I can't tell you how much that means to me and how important it is to earn your vote. So thank you, Nancy. Welcome to everyone watching online. Welcome to our crew that we have here in Rochester. It's wonderful to be here on our third of 3 big launch events that we've done in all 3 of our counties today. Under normal circumstances, we would be in a big packed room like we were last year or last cycle when we were launching. But because of COVID-19, lots and lots of things are different. And what you're going to see from us starting today is a revamped, creative approach to how to campaign and how to establish that personal relationship with people, that neighbor-to-neighbor relationship without actually being able to reach out and touch people. It's a real challenge, and I appreciate my team's work, everyone who's watching online, to give us a fair shot at trying to establish and maintain that connection, even though we can't all be in the same room together. So 3 years ago, exactly today, July 10th, 2017, we launched this campaign. At that point, we were a real upstart, long shot campaign. Most of the time when I met with people, they would say, "You seem like a really nice girl, but you can't win this race." It's built to be a gerrymandered Republican district. How far and how long of a trip it's been since January of 2017. And just to review the bidding, I was not a political person before that time. I had never contemplated running for office. I'm a former CIA officer and Pentagon official with 3 tours in Iraq. I met my wonderful husband, Dave, who's here in Baghdad. We met in Saddam's palace in a, just a standard Baghdad romance. We were very, very apolitical because we were in the federal government. We both proudly served both Democratic and Republican presidents. I worked in the Bush White House. I worked in the Obama White House. And we did that proudly. And we're strong believers in that apolitical approach. But the tone and tenor of politics in 2016 and of the campaign just felt different. And it felt fundamentally unbecoming of the country we served and the country that we all love. So for the first time in my life, I just started dipping my toe in the water and getting more engaged in politics, learning more. But what really pushed me into this race, what really got me in, was something much more personal. And that was my mom's experience with her healthcare. And many of you know that my mom passed away in 2011 from ovarian cancer. And when she was diagnosed, she did not have health care. She had let it lapse. She had paid another bill after struggling for years and years to afford health care because she had a pre-existing condition. She had had breast cancer as a very young woman when I was a little girl. And for the rest of her life, she had a pre-existing condition and struggled to afford the care that was on offer to her. That experience of dealing with a terminal diagnosis in the same week and the same month that we were dealing with filling out the paperwork for her to declare bankruptcy was a searing experience. And therefore, when I turned on the TV in May of 2017 and watched a live celebration, the House of Representatives had just voted to repeal the ACA or Obamacare, or what I really care about, protections for people with pre-existing conditions. It just broke me. And I turned to Dave and I said, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to vote against people's interests, ignore their concerns, and keep your job. And so we decided that day we were going to run, and July 10th, 2017, we officially got in the race. Now, I believe that as an elected official, it is my responsibility to make the case to you why you should reelect me. I do not believe that we should accept from our elected officials that they should just be on autopilot and they get in once, they get that job for the rest of their life. And certainly in this district, no one would ever say that I was going to be able to remain on my laurels. And so my hope is that starting today, we can make the case for why you should either vote for me again for a second time or vote for me for a first time. For me, what I took from my national security experience was a real mission focus, right? That is what you learn when you are working alongside the military, when you're in the CIA, when you're at the Pentagon. No one asks you when you're trying to prevent an attack on a US base in Iraq. No one asks you if you're a Democrat or Republican. You just do it. You're focused on the mission. And it's that mission focus that I have tried to bring to my job as a Congresswoman over the last 18 months. For me, my priorities have been focused on the things that I hear the most about in the district, the things that keep people up at night. And you can tell what keeps people up at night because they come and talk to you when they see you in the grocery store or on the street. It just comes out of them because for many people, it's a desperate feeling. And that's the price of healthcare, the price of prescription drugs, clean water, and then bringing some civility and decency back to governing, back to Washington. Those are the things that I've spent my time on. And I'm very, very proud that despite the deeply partisan tone in Washington, we've been able to turn 9 provisions into law. The president has signed 9 things that we have put forward. 6 of those are on PFAS. And here in Michigan, we know that if you can't give a glass of water to your child without knowing that they might get an early childhood cancer, if you can't fish in the rivers and lakes that you grew up fishing in, that is a threat to your family and a threat to your way of life. Environmental security is homeland security in the state of Michigan. And we are the stewards of the Great Lakes. So we have an even greater responsibility to preserve our local environment. So 6 of the 9 provisions we've turned into law were specifically about PFAS and things that actually change the game on PFAS. So in particular, starting immediately after signature, the US military cannot use PFAS in any training exercises, just for practice. By 2024, they must have transitioned completely and utterly off of PFAS foam, period, and find an alternative. And very importantly, starting after 2021, the EPA will test for PFAS under the Clean Water Act, along with a whole other suite of chemicals that they test for. Those are real things that I'm extremely proud of. We've also been able to pass legislation into law on veterans issues, something that's near and dear to my heart, Dave's heart. I have 2 stepdaughters, both in service. One's a brand new Army officer. We've been able to get a law signed right in the middle of COVID, actually, that says the GI Bill and the benefits that our veterans have earned can be used to pay for apprenticeship programs, right? Something that's such a fundamental thing in Michigan. And then a whole suite of bills have also passed the House of Representatives. They haven't yet turned into law, but they're waiting for the Senate to take them up. And they're bipartisan, particularly on issues like the price of prescription drugs and transparency. So we know before we even leave the doctor's office how much we're going to have to pay for that prescription. These are things that are intended to make the lives of our residents better. That is my job. Now, for me, it's not just the stuff that we've been able to do, but the way we've been able to do it that is extremely important to me. Being a Michigander, being from the 8th district, there are certain characteristics that we are educated with, that we grow up with here in Michigan. One is to be extremely practical. Second, we are bipartisan. We are a swing state. Many of us here in this room have families that are mixed between Democrats and Republicans. That is our tradition here. And we believe in decency and treating other people with decency. I have tried to take those values and emulate those values as I go to Congress. So first of all, on the bipartisanship, I really believe bipartisanship is something I feel in my bones. If you're in national security, it's just something you grow up with. You just don't think of things in terms of Democrat and Republican. You think about advancing the interests of the United States. So the first thing I did when I was sworn in was join the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's the only bipartisan caucus, equal numbers of Democrats and Republicans, that meet every single week, that work on legislation of common interest. And as you can imagine, things in Washington have become very polarized, but this group of people meet every single week, and we believe it is our job to find those areas where we do agree, whether it's on prescription drugs or on immigration issues, on issues related to the 9/11 compensation fund, things where we still agree and can still find common ground. And I believe it is my job to work across the aisle. And in fact, because we have divided government, because of our system and of checks and balances, you literally cannot get things done in a truly dramatic, game-changing way unless you work across the aisle. And that is something that I carry with me in this first term, but hopefully, if reelected, into a second term. In terms of decency, there's been a lot of moments in my first term, some of them covered widely in the press, where I have had to choose between making a decision and voting on something that would be politically expedient, that would be good for getting reelected, or doing something that and voting on something based on my values and my integrity. And those are real choices. Certainly, I've had to make those choices pretty regularly in this term. And what I have tried to do, particularly because I know there's a lot of people who sometimes don't agree with those decisions, I've tried to be available. I've tried to be my sense of integrity and my oath of office. And I was asked many, many times, do you think these decisions and these votes that you're casting could mean the end of your political career? And the truth is, they might. We're going to find out really quick here in November. But I still have to look myself in the mirror. I still have to look all of you in the mirror. And so I took decisions that I hope reflected that sense of decency and integrity that I know Michiganders care about. Now, going forward, for me, those same core issues that keep people up at night, the price of healthcare, prescription drugs, clean water, those are the things I'm going to carry with me as priorities in my second term. But we have to add two extremely important priorities because of what we're going through right now. Because of COVID-19. We have to face a situation that come August, September, the full weight of our economic situation will be setting in. We have 21% unemployment in the state of Michigan right now. And financially, people are going to be going over a cliff in the next month or month and a half as all the moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures and on water shutoffs are going to end. So we have to be focused on getting our economy back up and running again, economic stimulus that gets people back up and working. That's a major priority. And then, to be honest, a passion project for me and something that I believe in very, very deeply, particularly because of my experience in COVID-19, is the importance of bringing more American manufacturing back. My experience during COVID-19 was pretty amazing. We started getting desperate calls to our phone lines from nurses and doctors and parents who were desperately worried about our frontline healthcare workers who were sharing one mask in a COVID unit, who were sharing gowns, who couldn't get swabs in order to conduct tests that we finally could get our hands on. And I'll tell you something, if a US Congresswoman has to find herself negotiating with a Chinese middleman over a 78-cent mask, and I couldn't get them for weeks into our hospitals, I think we have to accept that we have gone too far in outsourcing our medical supply chain and our pharmaceutical supply chain. We just gone too far and the chickens came home to roost. And we're seeing that still in some of the shortages we're seeing in other states right now. So Already, we've introduced a whole suite of legislation, Made in America Supply Chain Act. And this is aimed at incentivizing American companies to make medical supplies and pharmaceuticals. And certainly when I was at the Pentagon, we had Made in America requirements on our military equipment. So there's no reason those same requirements can't be put on other desperately important supply chains like medical supplies and pharmaceuticals. So that is something that is going to take up a lot of my time. And Michigan showed everyone during COVID-19 what it means to still have a major manufacturing sector that jumped in, retooled, and showed the country what American manufacturing is really all about. So those are my priorities going forward if I should be elected. Let me just say that I know in this district, people have choices and people have to make decisions about who they're going to vote for. And my hope is beyond just the issues, beyond just the way we do them, that we help be part of a new generation of leaders that are being elected from all over the country. And I believe that new generation thinks differently and works harder and believes that we are responsible to the residents in our district, that this is public service. It is not about personal gain. And we have a responsibility every single day to be demonstrating that. We've had over 30 town halls in comparison to maybe some of my predecessors. We've had 30 town halls in the 18 months that I've been a Congresswoman. It is my attempt to listen, to hear, and then to do something about it. That is my responsibility. That is my charge. And I hope to be able to do it as your Congresswoman for a second term. So thanks very much.